Hello, Wine World. Thank you for joining me tonight on Sip Side Note, Episode 2. I am featuring Coco of Whiskey and Woof. So I want to thank you again for joining me tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're going to start with the wines from South Africa first. I had stated earlier this month that November is themed South Africa. My wine tonight is a mosaic red blend from Indaba, which is from the Western Cape of South Africa. It is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon at 62%, Merlot at 36%, and Cabernet Franc at 2%. For color, this wine is a medium ruby. I would say its body is, I would say medium plus. For aromas, I smell a lot of red fruits. I usually go with cranberry. I smell a little tartness. I smell a little earthy tones, which is very interesting for this kind of blend. I would say there's some oak aging of some sorts because I'm getting slight spices, maybe cinnamon, maybe a little bit of vanilla as well. On the palate, I'm going to say those spices are really enhanced again. I, again, taste some red fruits, maybe a little bit of plum. I really taste the Cabernet Franc, believe it or not. I'm a little bit more in tune with that varietal, with those spices. Getting those red fruits, again, from both the Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. And Merlot, we all know, is a nice blending varietal. Kind of smooths out the tannins, which I would say are medium plus in this case. I would say it's a nice acidity. I would also say medium. And the finish is actually medium minus. I would say it's smooth on the palate. Alcohol content is also medium. And it's dry. And I would rate this wine, I would say a 3 out of 5. I'm pleasantly, and it's enjoyable. It's just a nice red blend. How about your wine, Coco?
Well, first, what gets a 5? I want to know what a 5 is for you, because that I want to sign up for that now.
A 5 would be, how do you say it? If it's something like outstanding, something that's memorable, like where I am just wowed, yeah, it has to have something in the wine that really stands out, whether it be the flavor or the aroma. But yeah, it has to, something would be like, wow, I need to write this one down, or I really need to take a photo of it.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be a 5 out of 5. And kind of like my go-to, it's like something's by the book. Like I said, those.
Yeah. And you could drink it daily or something.
Right. It's enjoyable, but 4 would be something that's jumps out a little bit, but the 5 is like, wow, I need to share this with others. I need to share this with my family, or I'm going to pick up another bottle. It's very rare that I pick up a second bottle of something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm currently always exploring wines.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's really good to know. I'm actually really happy that you picked South Africa, because I have been looking at this in my local wine store. Hold on. Let's see. It's opposite, so it's interesting to wait. Yep, there you go. Opposite of what you think visually. So this one's called Lekker, Lekker, which apparently means cool. And it's also from South Africa. It's from the Cape. As far as color, this is exciting to do. You get a white piece a white piece of paper. And as you can see, I have this fun little wine glass. So this is a nice, but it's like a dark red. It does smell very vanilla in here. I think it is a little bit spicy. Yeah, it's got like a little bit of black pepper in there.
Nice.
black pepper and a little bit of like fruit, obviously grapes, but I think there's some like blueberry in there, maybe a little bit.
Ooh, maybe
And
some
yeah,
love.
maybe a little blueberry. And it does have a nice finish. For me, this actually finishes better than it starts, because when it starts, I'm like thinking, oh, maybe I needed to like decant this a little bit more. But yeah, I would, I think if you had to go to a dinner party and you were like, okay, I need to get a decent bottle of wine, and maybe I don't know this person, or maybe I'm not staking my reputation on this wine. This is a drinkable table wine. And I think, I think the price point is about $17. So it's
Very.
not, yeah, so it's not unreasonable. It might be $20. It was between like 16 and 20, I think. So yeah, I think it's nice. I really like the logo. I look at logos as well. I get influenced by that. I think a lot of people get influenced by that. I don't know, how do I get this in? It looks like I'm super drunk because I don't know how to do this, but the camera is so opposite. It's like,
It's
yeah.
something you have to get used to, but you will. You will.
I do really like this. It's a 2016, and I had been recommended this before, so it's nice to just kind of like have that, and yeah, it's good. I like it. It does have like a soft finish, which I really actually like, because then you just like, mellow. So yeah, so that's my assessment. Oh, out of rating, I think I would also give this a 3 out of 5. I don't know if I would get this again. I might, but I really love Italian reds. So a nice Barolo, I would probably reach for before this.
I recently went to a wine tasting this past weekend, and I think I had my first Barolo, and
Oh,
it's
nice.
very what's the word? It was interesting. It was good because I like acidity in a wine, and I felt as though everything I've read about a Barolo, it definitely hit those marks. It was a classic Barolo. It was reasonably priced for the region. I think it was in the 40s, which is, a great starting point. So I know it wasn't from the best region.
Yeah.
It was a very good representation of the region. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm going with that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's good. It's good to like try different things and actually zone in on a region, I think, for a little while. And then you're sort of like get your go-tos for that region.
Yes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start with the little interview that I have. So for the first question, how did you get started with Whiskey and Woof?
So I I love candles. I have a dog that is a micro influencer on Instagram. She models and stuff like that. And so for a long time, her name is Elle. For a long time, people were asking me, are you going to come out with something? She's known for fashion. Are you going to make something? Yeah. Are you going to make something for her? Is she going to have like a hat? Like what she wears, all these great things. And I know so many incredible entrepreneurs with design backgrounds that were doing that already and gifting us beautiful, beautiful things, or loaning them for photo shoots, or, asking us, can you be the brand rep or whatever. And then I also love whiskey. And so I was a member of the British Bourbon Society, and a friend of mine and I had talked about this. I really wanted to blend my own whiskey, which is an intense process. It can take years. Now there's like engineering where you can speed it up. There's like some newer brands like Arcane, which is in Williamsburg, that they do speed up the aging process with technology. But I really wanted to blend my own. And I went to a pop-up for Chivas Regal that they had in London. I was living in London. And so I got to fulfill that fantasy and blend my own whiskey, and it was amazing. And the teacher was like, you didn't do exactly what I said. And I was like, well, who's leaving with this 250 mils? Is it you or is it me? And then he was like, well, I want a taste of yours. So he had a taste of it, and he was like, this is really delicious. And he then was buying me and my friend, they had like a bar in the front. So if you weren't going to the class, you could still enjoy the pop-up. So he was buying us a lot of vintage Chivas Regal for the rest of the night. And so I felt really happy about that. But it for me, anything that you do, whether it's cooking, whether it's mixing alcohol or mixing scent, it's like your skill set gets better as you go along. So then I just kind of went back to like, well, what are my passions? What are my passions aside from work? Because work has just not been incredible. So I was like, what can I do outside of that that's going to excite me again? I worked in music and tech and entertainment for a really long time, and that can get draining, especially if you're working in international roles. So you're covering every time zone almost, because if you have to get something done, that's what happens. So essentially, I put together, I had a couple of friends and I said, hey, we're coming back to visit from London. Why don't you meet me at the Kings County Distillery? And what I realized was like, I had a great group of friends who also were female, who also loved bourbon. And that was really incredible for me. And so I thought, wow, what's also weird on my smell sense is that I don't love overly sweet, overly, like something that's overwhelming versus something that's like, ooh, what is that? I want to lean in. I want to kind of know more about that. And it sort of sets an atmosphere. So no matter where you kind of go, because there was a point that I moved quite a bit, moved like 7 times in a year. Long story, another story. But as long as I had my dog and my candles, everything was like good. You have your things. So then I started researching, just like you research wine and everything. I researched different waxes. I researched what kind of notes go together. How is the process? How can I refine this process? And that's how I got started.
That's wonderful.
That's a very long answer, but that's the background.
I want this kind of conversation. I think I always find it very interesting to hear everyone's journey. So I like to say I'm a nice listener.
You are.
The next question is, how did you come up with your name for your business?
So there is a marketing rule called KISS. I'll pronounce it like that first, but it stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. And basically it's like you kind of go to the bare basics of what's going to be memorable, what is the core of your brand, what are the elements of your brand, and also you want to check that nobody else has this brand. I worked for NBC Universal in London, and they had this on a subscription reality service, and they had the worst name. It's so bad. They don't have it in this country, so hopefully if you're listening international, most of my friends that worked on that service are gone. But it was called Hey You, but it was spelled HAYU. And it was really hard to market that. And it just, sometimes when you have a name that flows. So it really, I would play around with words a little bit. I knew the first word was, going to be whiskey. It wasn't going to be wolf. And I did, take a look, how do these things look together?
Right.
I almost, at one point it was like whiskey, wine, and wolf. But then I said, that's a little bit too complicated. So I just sort of looked, and I was like, from an alliteration standpoint, like dogs and whiskey is kind of like, yeah, but I'm making a luxury candle. So what is not dog 101? What's more like a little bit of a, whimsical, but still you see this and it looks beautiful. So like when I did it in writing, and, it looked really, let's see if I could do this. Ooh. Look, I put labels on both sides of this one because this is an experiment candle. There we go. I got it. Okay. So, and I just looked really nice together. And I was very, once I settled on that name, I actually set up the Instagram a long time ago. And then I just sort of, was there and not really using it, but I had it, bookmarked. So that's how I came up with the name.
Very nice. I really enjoy it. It's something that's eye-catching. And like you said, it's something, once someone reads it, you just kind of get it. Like it's two things most likely that you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
So I think you did very well with the name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next question is, what is the process to create your candles?
Okay, so the basics of making a candle is that you get wax. The ratio of wax, this is, I'm generalizing, so just to keep it, like, so let's say the math ratio is 1 ounce per 1 pound. Depending on your wax, it can be all different combinations of that. Some wax actually holds more fragrance than others. Yeah, which is interesting. Wax is very temperamental. So it also depends on the size of the container that you're using. Like, are you using like a small one? Are you using a large one? Do you have pillar? There's all different types of waxes for that. So sometimes people are like, oh, it'd be really great if you came out with some tea light candles. And I'm like, okay, I would have to perfect that. That means I have to have a different wax, because there's actually a different wax than what I'm using for tea lights. A different container means a different wick size. So you also have to make sure that you are, do I want to use a wooden wick? I don't personally like the aesthetic of a wooden wick. I tried it, they're okay. But I really wanted to go with a cotton wick. And that's the other thing. It's like, then you're also keeping your sustainability factors in there. So you have to make sure you're also sourcing ethically. Okay, so basically you get wax, however you get it, whether it's pre-cut for you or you have to cut it. I have to actually cut mine. Mine comes in a massive slab. And so I cut it and I put it into a container, a pouring vessel, and I measure out. So I measure how much is that container, and then I put it on the scale, and I get the amount that I want. So I'll put 1 pound, I'll slice off 1 pound. It goes into this giant container, and then you have to melt it. I've seen people on, it's so crazy. I've seen people on YouTube actually put their wax into a microwave. I would not advise that.
No,
you can't control the temperature, and it's kind of ridiculous. It's just so bad. So you can use a double boiler system, and then you can graduate to like a larger pot. There's one that I use, and I really can't think of the name of it right now. It's just flown out of my head. Sorry about that. But
no problem.
I have a special pot that has never touched any type of food. It's all of my candle equipment. Even though my candles are made in my kitchen, they are not even on the same surface as my stove or anything like that. I don't use a double boiler. I did get the special pot. It holds up to 5 ounces of wax. So that does mean that's why I make small batch candles. I also am sort of like a person who needs to control things and make sure that there's quality. So one of the things that's great about that for me is, like, if something isn't perfect or something that I wouldn't put out the door and send to a client, I get to keep that candle. And so my apartment always smells really great. People come over and they're like, you have an army of candles. I'm like, yes, I do. It's great. So you cut the wax, you melt the wax. You will have measured, hopefully you'll measured your own fragrance. And then once the wax is melted, you let it cool to a certain temperature. It depends, and again, this temperature also depends on the fragrance you use, because different fragrances have different flash points. So that means like they become flammable.
Right.
So, but you want it to be hot enough so that when you add in the fragrance, it actually blends and will combine chemically with the wax. Then I usually stir it. A lot of people apparently skip stirring the fragrance. I stir mine in for at least 2 to 3 minutes. I put a timer on to make sure every time. And then once that's all done, then I'll put in my dye, because you want to be able to look and see if there's swirls, like pockets of fragrance all over the place. And if you have dye, you'll never see that. Yeah. So then after the dye is in, you have to wait for the temperature to cool again. This time it's due to letting that wax kind of like come together, combine a little bit with the fragrance and the dye, and you want to let it It depends again, what wax you're using. So wax is very sensitive depending what you're using. So some people say pour that wax at 165 degrees. Other people are like, I let it cool to 150. So it really depends. And this is why, when I first started and I watched a ton of research, like a ton of YouTube videos, I read articles, I looked in the Reddit community, I talked to candle makers, I joined Facebook groups, and I went to classes. And so I think the thing is, like, you really have to, even outside all of that, when I met some people and they're like, oh, it took me a year and a half to figure out these candle scents. And when I first started, I was like, wait, what? Isn't it just these basic things? But no, that's the beginner mentality, because somebody has measured out a pound of wax that's perfect with this wick that they included in your kit and this amount of fragrance. So it gets more complicated the more you blend. So after I pour, usually what happens is you've got your vessel and you don't want to put it on something that is cold. That's not good. You want your vessel to be slightly above room temperature. And then you pour it in and you pour it slowly. The reason you pour it slowly is to avoid air pockets and air bubbles, which can, again, ruin your candle. They're so sensitive. They're sensitive. And then, but before you do that, you put in, so sometimes I do wear gloves. So I'll take my slightly warmed vessel and I then will stick, I have a steel straw that I use to make sure that it sticks in properly, because you have a pre-tabbed wick that you put in there that you have determined this is the right size and experimented with. And then you pour it, and there are so many different tools that you can actually get, the simplest of which, and this is for centering your wick, and you really want to make sure that your wick is centered, because again, this affects your candle performance. There are just elements that get affected. So once you've done that, if you don't have anything, you can use a straw, you can use a pencil, you can tie that wick around something. I have even used popsicle sticks. I see a lot of people using clips, whether they are like the laundry bag clips. I don't do that. I actually now have I take a lot of time to center them, but I've also now purchased some custom ones that I had made just for me, because I really like things to be perfect when they go out the door. If you are coming to my store and you're receiving this in your home, or you see me and you buy this from me, I want the whole experience for you to be one that's warm and luxury and give you the best product possible. So you can test burn a candle after 24 hours. That's fine. You want to see that it's melted correctly and you've got the right wick and all of those sort of elements. However, if you want the best fragrance and the best, what we call a cold throw. So right now, if I just sniff it, this is an unlit candle. That's the cold throw. When you light the candle, that's the hot throw. So if you want a really strong cold throw, which a lot of people like, when you're going into any store and you're standing there for 10 minutes going, you're going for the cold throw.
Is everything of what I usually purchase. So.
Yes. So you would let it cure for at least a week. I try and let mine cure for 2 weeks, ideally. That just is like heaven to me. I mean, people are happy with them, but I write every single time that I make batches of candles, which is all the time. I write down the ingredients. I write down the yield I'm getting. I write down the percentage of wax that I'm using. And, am I doing 4 pounds? Am I doing a special order? Somebody said to me, you know what? I really love candles, but I am allergic to fragrance. Can you make me a candle? I love the look and feel of your candles, and I want to experience that. But would you mind making me a candle without any fragrance? So I did that, because to me, every single client is a VIP. And it also helps me as a candle maker to just increase my knowledge and creatively, it's like, wow, I'm creating this product that you think is, you love the look and the feel so much and the experience that you don't even mind that it doesn't have fragrance. And I said, well, obviously I can't charge you the full amount because the fragrance is what really, and the quality of the fragrance is what inflates the price. So she was like, oh no, I have actually done this before. And usually people just take it down like $2 or $3. So of course I put in some extra goodies for her because I just wanted her to feel good and not strange about the fact that she can't have a scented candle. But she opened it. She loved it. It was like a really good thing. So
Nice that you custom ordered.
Yeah,
very specific.
it was very specific, and I like doing that. But as far as the process for me with scents, that's a whole different question than the basics of candle making.
Yes. Going into that, what inspires you to create these scents?
What inspires me? Okay, so then we'll go back to the name, Whiskey and Woof. These are inspired by humans' greatest companions. Whiskey was originally was created to be medicinal, and it's great in a hot toddy. So I really have really enjoyed bourbon. I like bourbon, although Scotch is really nice as well. Some varietals I'll get into. So for me, it again was going back to the fact that there are, I don't want to say male-leaning tendencies, but there are masculine smells and feminine smells. And so I lean more towards the woodsy types of smells and the musks, which are more masculine. If you look up masculine scents, all of these kind of things will come up. And so I'm inspired by whiskey. And on the Woof side, they do not smell like wet dogs or anything like that. I got a comment on one of my ads and it was like, oh, so do these smell like drunks and wet dogs? And I was like, no, they really don't. The dog adventures are more like cinematic. So for instance, the L scent, which is the pink candle, which is my ocean rose, which means it's a rose scent that I combined with some ocean woodsy scents in order to cut the sweetness and keep it from being like, oh, I just walked into a rose bush. This is like, help me. Yeah, I've fallen down. I can't get out of this, like gagging because it can be too sweet, So that was inspired by like walks on the beach when there's almost like an abandoned beach and you just see the little paw prints and stuff like that. But the sun is setting and you're just sort of like in this happy moment and you sort of like, maybe there's flowers nearby and you'll catch a drift of that rose coming together. So it's those scents coming together and that feeling of just joy and just being in the moment. And then so on the female side, which is like the Woof side is more female, is more emotional. And so the numbers on the whiskey side are actually quite literal, the number of blended scents in there. So I have from like number 4 up to number 22. Mm-hmm. And my new one is like number 14. So I really do like to play, and it can be a delicate balance. Because again, if you're going to that 1-to-1 ratio of you have 1 ounce per 1 pound of wax, then you really have to figure out which notes go together. Just like a wine pairing, you're going, okay, what's the top note? What's the base note? What's the middle note? Are these scents going to combine well together? Because I'm the first person that will gag when I smell something that just is like, oh no, what is this horrible thing? Get away from me.
You have a perfect combination to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are my inspirations. I will say for the Duchess, which is number 6, which is my wine scent, it is based off of Tianello. Yes, there it is. I sent you that because it's a wine scent. Do you have any notes? I'd love to hear your notes.
I'm really picking up more on like those nature notes. So like you were saying, more like woodsy.
Yeah, there is a smoky
for wine, like maybe like oak.
Yeah,
notes.
So it's a Merlot. It's got a smoky oud in there, and it's got a rum and some violets also.
I can now pick up on the violets. Sometimes when others mention notes, then your brain kind of triggers like, oh yes, I agree. So I do smell those floral notes now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very nice. I think this is a great scent that you came out with. And I really have to say I'm very impressed with your process and how much research and it's research and development that you've been. I mean, that's a very intense situation where you have to constantly write down what you're doing as a scientist. I'm a scientist by day, wine enthusiast by night. I understand that research and development process with my own thesis that I had to do for school. So I do know it takes a lot of concentration, and you do have to jot down all those notes to kind of keep track. And you could pick up where you left off, and it's a process that I really admire because that's something we can connect on.
Oh, definitely.
Great.
Definitely.
It's nice.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think it does make a difference. And you do, again, once you hone your skills and you try more wines, or, I have more experience and I keep doing this and I do it on a daily basis. I actually went to a scent making class just before I launched, probably about a month before I launched. And this brand, it's called Maplin. They are in Israel, and he had all these amazing essential oils there, which he was very nice. The founder gave me a whole bunch of them to go home with. And we were, they gave us loose direction, not really too much, because I think he's more of a purist and he wanted us to go based on our scent. And then I made 3. And the last one, his head of marketing asked me, what's in here? She really liked that. I think they might have created a scent that's very similar to what I made out of that, because I'm drawn to certain things. It's like you're drawn to certain notes, you're drawn to certain colors, you're drawn to certain wines. And so for me, that was like, wow, this is amazing. But it also felt like my almost personal self final exam. Like, you can do this. You're good. You actually are good at this. Like, keep going. Because I had given out testers all along the way. And my first batch of testers that I gave to people, even though I've been making candles for a couple months, was in January at a birthday party. And so I gave people that, and I actually did not wind up using that wax as a result of some of the feedback that I gotten. So I think it's really important to do research and development, and to get a group consensus, not a group consensus, but to make sure that your test pool isn't too small, and make sure that you're actually trying different people that you think, for instance, in this situation, are in my target demographic. So those people really were, it's like, oh, I want to go after, men who like whiskey, who are dog dads. I also felt like men are left out a lot of times when it comes to dog products.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's mostly geared towards women, which makes sense. Yeah,
shopping.
Yeah, exactly. Just like when Old Spice realized, when they did their was it the most interesting man? No, the guy you wish your guy could be like. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Campaign?
Yes.
So the research on that was like, they realized who's making the purchases of the aftershave. It's actually women. So that's why they targeted the women who are going to the supermarket and pulling that aftershave off and the shelf. And they were like, yes, the man you wish your man smelled like. All right. So for me, it was important to make sure that people who I knew lived a certain lifestyle. And one of my friends, when I left London, he got all of my Diptyque stuff, and he really loves luxury, but he is a banker, so he doesn't get exposed to that as much as maybe some other people. Like, he's great, and he's extremely intelligent. He does all these other things, but he's now in the point in his mid-30s where he's starting to do those more home things, like, instead of, traveling off here and go, it's like, it'd be nice to actually create a space at home and an environment at home, which you can do with a candle. You create an atmosphere as much as music or lighting. So It's all part of it.
Very interesting. What are your best-selling products?
Oh, okay. So I actually, for a new brand, I have a lot of products. My best selling is my signature scent. It's the Sophisticate number 22. This is a blend of 22 scents. It is one of the whiskey scents. It is my number one. I actually predicted that the L would be number one. It's number two, but and literally she is number two. L. I wrote
Yes.
it right here.
Right.
But yeah, the Sophisticate is a blend of 22, and it's like there's so many amazing smells in here. From the bourbon smell. Oh, I just got to smell this. Yeah, and all the musks that are in here. So usually when I meet someone and they want to smell my candles, I leave this to last because people go, "Oh, I like this, I like this," and then they get here and they go, "Whoa!" So this
Right.
is my whoa candle. But a lot of times people, right now because it's seasonal and unintentionally seasonal, I have this one called the Confidant, and it's a maple bourbon. This is so hard. It's hard getting the.
I know it is.
Okay. So
Right.
the maple bourbon is like, yes, that's so good. So the maple bourbon is, sometimes when you go into, whether you're spending $10 on a candle or you're spending 85, Tom Ford has a candle that is 2 ounces less than mine and costs $105.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's his best-selling scent. It's called, well, can I curse on here? I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's called Fucking Fabulous, which I think is great. A lot of people don't like the scent, but they like that it says that, and it's bold, and it's like Tom Ford. It's so cool, Yeah. So it's interesting because, again, you're going, well, why is Tom Ford's candle more than the $10 candle that I can get at Bath and Body Works? The difference is the smell. So you might go to Bath and Body Works and it'll say, "Oh, this is," or it's not. I'm not trying to pick on them. I'm just trying to say, here's where you can get easily a $10 candle, and there's a lot of them, and you're like, well, why? That says $10. Why would I spend more money on a candle? It's really like the quality, it's the fragrances, it's the wax, it's the packaging, but it really is the quality of what's inside.
Well, especially hearing all your research and development, I mean, this is where it's definitely going. And now that our followers understand that, I think they're going to appreciate the time and effort that you put into this, and they're going to understand, well, now I understand why.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. Because if you have you can get cheap soy candles, which is fine. I mean, if you like that, that's great. So you can get it. And I have high candles, I have low candles, I have candles from everywhere. I still buy candles because, of course, I am inspired by other people. I love diptyque. That's part of the thing. It's like, I was like, wow, I also really love diptyque. How can I maybe do this myself? It's like when you are curious about anything and you sort of break it down and you're like, oh no, I am so curious. I want to embrace this. I want to do this. And I love that I had a hand delivery the other night and my candles were going next to Le Labo and Boy Smells, because that's exactly what I was going for. I really feel like this candle, the Sophisticated, I get it all the time. People say this is like their number, either it's their number 26 or their number 33. And that really makes me happy, because when you take that time to do that, and again, if you go back to the math, and we'll just keep it basic of 1 ounce to 1 pound, to be able to blend 22 cents together consistently and have this result, it took me 6 months to develop just this scent. So It should be my bestseller, and thank God that it is. But yeah, I mean, and also not everybody loves a rose scent. So I do love, but a lot of men actually really like the L scent. So I get that quite a bit from men, is like they really like that because it's not an overwhelming rose. They like a floral, but they don't want it to be, falling into a rose bush.
Right. Not too overpowering.
Yeah.
And lastly, what do you have in store for the holiday season?
So I am really excited. I am doing a gift box with a friend of mine who owns a brand called Mason de Paz. She hand makes dog treats. They are, like $12 a bag. So again, best of best. Oh, I'm just gonna say I'm in there too. Whatever. That's so crazy. How much wine have I had? No, but she really, it's the same taste level. It's that kind of thing where somebody who has sort of a global outlook, has traveled quite a bit. She does not have a French bulldog. I have a French bulldog, therefore I'm drawn to French things naturally. But she's been to Paris many times. She loves it, so she called hers Maison de Paz, and so we are doing a gift box. We're going to be at West Elm on the 24th of November.
Okay.
And this is my new Christmas scent. Okay, opposite of what I think. So this one is called Bon Vivant. It is my new one. It's number 14. It's blue spruce and whiskey. Now, what I want you to feel, and this is really what this evokes for me, is basically, you're at a holiday party and there's like nice environment. There's someone just really captivating that's telling a story, and you're sort of stood halfway between a tree and a fireplace drinking whiskey. And that's literally what this candle is. So, so it's kind of like a whiskey by the fire.
Yes, I have to say, very nice imagery. I'm imagining what you're saying, and I'm just, as much as I love Thanksgiving, I know each year everyone's on Christmas a little bit too soon, but
yeah,
I have to say that was a very warm and inviting envision of what's to come in the next month. And I hope, and I'm sure it will, your scent will be very popular.
I hope so too. I mean, the thing is, if you're not ready, and it will stay around longer than just, it's unintentionally seasonal, is that Confidant, which is the maple bourbon. So if you're not quite ready, and I think the blue spruce, I'm only going to sell until for the month of December. It will be gone after that, because I think it's nice to have something that's there for a limited amount of time.
I agree.
And the Confidant, I was also thinking of, taking it off the list at that point. I do have 2 other collaborations that are currently in the works. Both of those people live in other states, so there's currently stuff I'm shipping to them, and then I get notes, and then we go back and forth. So that's kind of exciting. And then I also have 2 new fragrances. The fragrances, I also use essential oils. So these essential oils come from plants. That's where they come from. And so I use coconut oil in here to keep my consistency with coconut. I'm a little cocoa. And so the great thing is there's so many bad scents out there. So I actually use this as I always keep one in my bag. I use it even if I'm not going to put it on. I will just open it and smell it. And it's almost like a modern day reset or a smelling salt to me. It's really fresh. So my summer scent, that was this one. It's called Savor. It's number 1. And people are always like, well, why is it number 1? But I think the best rule in life is, like, in this busy life, stop for a moment, savor the moment. And it's like got cypress and mandarin. It's really fresh.
Nice.
But since we're going into colder weather, including right now where it's in the 30s, I have 2 others. One is called Ignite, and the other one is called Captivate. And one of them has got a leather black pepper bergamot in it, and the other one is more like a blood orange type of scent, with a little bit of like sandalwood in it, and it's really nice to actually bring those flavors forward. So like, even, people like to change up their scent, and I'm actually experimenting with, custom scents now. If somebody, because I've been doing these collaborations and having these incredible conversations with people where they're telling me, oh, I like this. Can you make something like that? And so I've thought, well, this would be a nice thing. I personally love blending scents, but I think this would be a nice service for me to offer for other people, because sometimes you just go, it's my birthday, I want a fragrance just for that day. But my scents are also unisex, so they don't feel overly feminine or unfeminine. And there's a lot of houses of perfume that are actually doing that. Mason Margiela is one of them. There's a lot out there. But before I go, because I know you want to wrap up, I've got 2 things that I would say. If you want to make your roll-on or your perfume scent last longer, or your cologne, you know, a lot of times they tell you to do this. Don't rub them together. Let it air dry separately. Another little trick that you can do is you take some Vaseline, you put it on before you put on your scent, and then you put it on. So
I think those are great tips because that's exactly, I just automatically do this.
Yep.
I smell it, and then, you know, maybe it lasts for a bit because everyone gets used to it. But I mean, to extend the longevity of the scent, all right, air dry.
Air dry. It's
Right.
hard. It'll be a hard adjustment, and you'll be like, oh, ah! But once you start doing it, you'll notice it'll last longer.
Well, for sure, I'm going to be contacting you for a, you know, a specific scent. I have to really think about it.
Yeah, you'll start noticing. Just start noticing what you like.
Exactly. I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight on Zip Side Note. I think it was full of great information about your business. I'm really excited to check out your site for the holidays. I like what you had to share tonight. So I do want to share your handles. Instagram, it's whiskey_and_woof. For Facebook, it's Whiskey and Woof. And Pinterest. You know, I have to say I'm a big Pinterest person. A lot of people use Pinterest. So
yeah, me too.
I'll be following you there as well.
Thank
so
you.
I want to cheers with you with the little that I have left.
Me too. Where is it?
Cheers. Me, Coco. And I hope you guys explore new wines. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.